All right. I think we have at least everybody that I see in here.
Okay.
And if you give this just a second, we'll be on YouTube.
Yep. Just let me know when it's ready.
Okay, I think you're good to go.
Okay, the time is 3:02. Hello, I am Mandy Carstetter and serve as chair of the Practice IV Therapy Advisory Committee of the Kansas State Board of Nursing. I ask the members of the Practice IV Therapy Advisory Committee to respond to a roll call signifying their presence at this open meeting being held remotely by Zoom and YouTube. Juliana Reichik.
Present.
Christina Blanton. Julie Brown. Denise Rebel. Jean Gerstenkorn.
She responded that she's going to be absent with prior notice.
Okay. Sharon Morris. And Gwendolyn Lloyd. I also asked the following board staff members to signify their attendance. Carol Moreland.
Here.
Linda Davies.
Here.
Victoria Bond.
Here.
I note that the board's general counsel, assistant attorney general, is also present.
Here.
Public comment allows individuals to address the Practice IV Therapy Advisory Committee about their concerns, but the Kansas Open Meetings Act, which is known as COMA, does not require the committee to provide public comment or answer questions from individuals, as we will not know what comments an individual may make. We would want to provide notice to the public of our intent to discuss a particular matter so that the public may listen and observe our discussion. Public comment will not be taken today due to that concern, and because this is a meeting conducted remotely by Zoom and YouTube where the connection may be lost and the time for the meeting may not allow everyone who is present to comment. Because we are conducting this public meeting by Zoom and YouTube, I state for the record the following information. On August 27, 2020, the board sent notice of the meeting for the Practice IV Therapy Advisory Committee to all individuals who have requested notice of the committee's meetings. Additionally, the notice and agenda were posted on the board's website, ksbn.kansas.gov. The notice contains the link to the Zoom meeting identification number and password and the link to YouTube so that the public may attend this meeting free of charge. The notice also advises individuals to contact the board's office at 785-296-2967 if they experience technical difficulty during the meeting. You may obtain a copy of the notice and agenda at that website or by sending an email to Carol Moreland at kansas.gov with the subject line request for the agenda, and the board staff will send it to you. Effective June 9th, 2020, House Bill 2016 ratified Governor Kelly's emergency declaration due to the COVID-19 pandemic and extended it through September 15th, 2020, but the requirements of COMA were not suspended. We will be conducting this meeting pursuant to COMA and KAR 16-20-1 concerning compliance with the COMA during an emergency declaration. The Zoom virtual meeting and the YouTube Live are the only mediums for interactive communication offered for this meeting. Each member of the committee, board staff, or presenter shall state the person's name and title each time the person speaks or votes, as the case may be. Each participant to this meeting shall ensure microphones, phones, or other electronic devices are on mute when the participant is not speaking. Each motion will be clearly stated before the committee votes, and the chair will announce the result of the final vote. And a statement or motion will clearly identify and authorize by delegation each member of the committee or staff who will be permitted to sign any document on behalf of the board. The meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be posted to the board's website. The committee has the following items on its agenda: call to order, review of on-site packet, additions or revisions to agenda, approval of minutes for the meeting held in June 2020, complaints or concerns, practice unfinished business, practice new business, IV therapy unfinished business, IV therapy new business, and adjournment. The meeting is now called to order, and the committee will now consider the next item on its agenda.
Jan, if I can maybe back up, because it looks like we had some members join in since you did the roll call. So could we have those people identify themselves to make sure you have a majority?
Sharon Morris. I joined.
Right, okay. And then Gwendolyn Lloyd, were you on roll call or did you join late? You're on mute. Because I'm showing then, I'm trying to figure out how many board members we have that are on the committee that answer to roll call and are present.
I
So
answered.
You did, okay, I'm sorry, I missed it then. So we have then 4 members present, is that correct?
Yes.
Lou Brown.
Okay, well, you don't have a majority for a meeting because you're 8 members. It would take 5 as a majority. I mean, so you can't really, you can have discussions, but you're not going to be able to take any kind of action. Just FYI.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Carol,
You know, are some planning on being here late?
I don't know. Linda, do you know?
I do not. The only one I heard from was Jeannie.
Okay.
Would you like us to, Madam Chair, to resend all the invites to all the attendees?
If you could, please.
Yeah,
Okay.
we might try to reach out to them, see if we can get at least one more to join.
Is there anybody joined by phone, Colton, that we just don't know? And it might be some of
I
our,
do have one number. I don't know who it is. But I mean, other than that one, no.
okay. Because we've had some members throughout the day who have joined by phone. And
But do they still have the capability to answer the roll call and speak up on conference call?
Yes, they can
Yeah,
speak. They just can't
can.
be seen.
yeah. we
Yeah,
just
that's what I
can't see them.
thought. So consequently, they should have answered roll call, I assume, if they were a board member.
I would have to allow that. So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of I have to identify that that's who's in the attendees.
That's a board member. Okay. I mean, it's kind of up to you if you want to kind of go ahead and start, but without, until you get that majority, being able to, you know, make motions and take votes isn't going to really work very well for you.
Mhm. Carol, do you want me to go ahead and start and then,
Well, I mean, I guess it's up to you all on the committee, but you're not gonna, like Jan said, you're not gonna be able to take action on anything. And if we're not able to have a meeting today, I mean, we could inform you about it, but it's just gonna have to be put on the agenda for December then in order to take action.
You can wait 5 or 10 minutes to see if Adrian has any kind of luck in getting someone to join in, you know, that forgot about it or got, you know, hung up and is late, you know, if you want to do that.
mhm. We could give it a few minutes and then if I have to, I can do roll call again.
Yeah, or hopefully they'll just identify themselves when they come on the line. We'll see if Adrian had any kind of luck.
I've resent them. I can try to reach out via text to some if we have it.
Okay, that'd be great too.
Okay, I'll try that.
Julie Brown is now on.
Sorry, I was joined by phone, but I don't think you saw me or could hear me.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Yeah. I don't think I can stay on via internet though.
Okay, well, if you get lost and we lose the majority, then we'll have to decide if no one else has joined in. That may
I
kind of,
am still on via phone.
yeah, okay.
You
As
just
long as
can't
you're on
hear
by
me.
phone.
You just can't hear me when I've answered.
Okay. that-
If you could send or just somehow let Carol or Adrian know what your phone number is. I think I know who you are. I just need to make sure
Okay.
before I move it over.
Okay.
I don't want to expose your phone number.
Oh, well, I'm actually through the hospital phone number 354-6000.
Okay. Yep, that's you. Okay, I've moved that one over, so you should be good to do anything on that one now too.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to get off here. Use my phone.
So you've got a majority present, so you can go ahead with a meeting under chroma. And then again, you have enough to do votes. 5 of 8 members is a majority, so any votes would be unanimous unless someone else shows up to. So, maybe we'll have more luck and get another person or two to join.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and continue. Review of on-site packet, but I believe we did not have an on-site packet.
No, that's correct. We do not.
Do we have any additions or revisions, excuse me, to the agenda? I take it there were none? Okay,
Not from me.
okay. Do we have any announcements?
This is Linda, practice specialist. We have a few new board members that are just observing.
Okay,
I think it's Audrey Goldsmith, Giovanni Gahn. I probably butchered that. I'm sorry. Who else? I thought I saw somebody else. Is it Andrea Watson is on? Did I miss anybody? So welcome.
yes, welcome. It's good to have new board members. Okay, has everybody looked at the minutes from our June 16th meeting? Are there any revisions that are needed?
Mandy, we need to go back and approve the agenda as written.
Oh, it didn't, I
You
didn't see it.
forgot.
I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Okay,
Victoria can read the motion.
That's what I was getting ready to ask. In our other meetings, we had one reading and we would ask for motion stuff. So go ahead, Ms. Victoria.
Okay, so my name is Victoria Bond. I'm the administrative specialist. The motion before you is I move to approve the agenda as written.
Do I have a motion?
Mandy, this is Juliana Reshake, board member. I would make that motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
This is Sharon Morris, board member. I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, motion is approved. Okay, so back to the approval of the minutes. I hope you guys looked through them. Do you see any revisions that need to be made? And if not, Victoria, do you want to read a motion for me?
Yes. I'm Victoria Bond, the administrative specialist. The motion before you is I move to approve the June 16th, 2020 minutes.
Can I get a motion, please?
This is Juliana Reshake. I'll move.
Thank you. Can I get a second, please?
This is Sharon Morris. I'll second, board member.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Need to vote to approve that motion? I'll say aye.
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 Sharon Morris, aye.
Okay. Anyone?
Gwendolyn Boyd, aye.
Okay. Anybody who opposes signify with the same sign. Okay, any abstentions? Motion's approved. Okay, the next thing on here are complaints or concerns. Do we have any of that?
This is Linda Davies, practice specialist. I do not have any.
Okay. So with that being said, we will move on to practice. Our first thing is unfinished business. On here, it's the 5-year legislative, I cannot speak today, review of KAR 60-3-101.
Madam Chair, this is Carol Moreland, Administrator. I can kind of talk to this. We looked at this last time we met, and it was kind of given back to me because there was some question about, it would be small b, number 2, B as in boy. When it talks about verification of a current Kansas license shall be provided to other state boards upon request and upon payment of the prescribed fee. There was some thinking that perhaps that needed to come out because most of our verifications are done by nurses now. However, I think it needs to stay there because not all 50 states are part of using nurses as verification. So there may be times that we still are asked to provide verification to a state that does not utilize nurses. And at that point, then yes, we would provide it to that other board upon request and upon payment of the fee. There's not a few.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Carol on that? Do we have a motion for that? Or do we have not have it? We do have a motion?
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
So this is Victoria Bond, the administrative specialist. The motion before you is I move to approve KAR 60-3-101 as written.
Okay, I have a motion. Can I get somebody to do that motion, please?
Gwen Lloyd, board member, I move to approve that motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second, please?
This is Juliana Reshake, board member. I'll approve. Second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, let's vote on it. All in favor signify with aye.
This is Juliana Reshake, aye.
This is Sharon Morris, aye.
Gwen Lloyd, aye.
Okay. Those opposed signify with the same sign. I hate to, is Julie Brown still on? I didn't hear her, that's why I'm asking.
It looks like she's still there, but on mute.
Yeah.
I am still here, Julie Brown.
Okay, I didn't hear
Can you hear
your
me now?
vote, honey. I hate to, I just want to make sure that we stay in our quorum.
Aye. Yes.
Thank you. For
Mhm.
it or oppose?
4.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all those opposed with the same sign? Any that abstain? Okay. So moved. Next item is the proposed revision to KAR 60-7 60-7-101.
This is Carol Moreland, Administrator. I guess this is me also. 60-7-101 has to do with the licensure for the mental health technicians. And, we hadn't done very many revisions to the mental health technician regulations for some time. And so we're kind of brushing those off and looking at them. And it was kind of felt like with this one that perhaps we could bring it, some of the language in line with, like the nurses and stuff like that. So that's why you're going to see some of that. And then when you get down to E1, that has to do with the examination for licensure. It's not given twice a year now. It's just scheduled after graduation of a class because we only have like one program with a satellite program. And so it's easier for us because we actually give that exam to schedule it very close to a graduation time. And that way we can just get all of those graduates into one exam. So that's why there's a little change there. And then we put in about ADA criteria. And then there's a little bit on page 2 that just kind of talks about what happens if they're unsuccessful in passing the licensure exam, especially if it's been more than 24 months and less than 5 years, that they have to petition the board. So a lot of this language is kind of matching again the nurses. So we're just kind of updating it. But everything in yellow, you can see, I tried to highlight it in yellow so it's easier for you to see the changes. Anything that's, for those of you that are not familiar with this, anything that has a strike through will eliminate that. That's what we're proposing. And then anything underlined is new content. So just kind of, I'm sorry, I should have explained that because we do have some new people that might not be familiar with all of that. So those are the proposed changes that we're bringing for your consideration.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Carol? Okay, no questions. Victoria, do we have a motion for this?
Yes, this is Victoria Bond, the Administrative Specialist. The motion before you is I move to approve KAR 60-7-101 as written.
This is Sharon Morris. I make this so move.
Thank you. Can I get a second, please?
This is Julie Brown. I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify with aye, please.
This is Juliana Reshik, aye.
Sharon Morris, aye.
Julie
Gwen
Brown,
Lloyd.
aye.
Gwen Lloyd, aye.
Thank you. All those opposed with same sign, please. Okay. Any absence? Nope. Okay, so moved. Our next is new business. And the first thing on this is practice calls.
This is Linda Davies, practice specialist. And I just wanted to give you an update as far as like types of practice calls that we've been receiving over this past quarter. As you can imagine, they mostly relate to COVID. We've received some regarding IV hydration, Botox, ketamine, APRNs without collaborative practicing agreements during COVID, APRNs with telehealth, in-state, out-of-state, school nursing questions, and COVID and patient assignment for the nurse and whether they can refuse or not. So we've gotten, and those are just ones that have been frequent, that we've gotten several others that we've addressed as well. They keep coming in via phone call or email and are being routed straight to our practice specialist or practice person taking calls. So it's been a busy few months, needless to say, keeping up with all the changes across the street with the executive orders and the House bills and things, but Carol keeps us apprised. So we are trying to answer the questions as best we can. So.
Oh, thank you for that. I'm sure it's been very, very busy.
I will say that one of our nurse investigators did attend the school nurse conference in virtual, and she got a lot of great information from it. And almost immediately after, she received several school nursing calling in, and so she was able to answer some questions and refer them back to where she had obtained that information. So it was beneficial to send her. So that was good.
Good. Okay. We need to review the KSA 65-1115 and the 65-1116.
This is Carol Moreland, Administrator, and I think this is me. This is 65-1115 is on page 11 in your packet. 65, that was 65-1115. 65-1116 is on page 15. And then another document that you may want to refer to is on page 15. And there's been some questions and some concerns perhaps that we have nurses who endorse into Kansas. And when I say endorsement, that means that they're licensed in another state. And so when they come into Kansas and ask for a Kansas license, this would be, what happens right now is we do not have anything that says that they have to have practiced for X amount of time. So there's been some concerns about, our mission is to protect the public by having competent nurses and mental health technicians. How are we saying that they're competent if we're letting them endorse into Kansas when perhaps they haven't practiced for 12 years? And now they're going to come into Kansas and they're going to practice. What has been questioned is, could they take a refresher course? Because I think the term refresher course is maybe a little misleading at times. We utilize the refresher course a lot when it's someone who we make them take a refresher course for some reason. Okay, but we have nothing that really says what it says here is if they haven't been licensed to practice professional nursing for 5 years, then they're required to successfully complete a refresher course. Okay, but if you have someone who endorses in and they haven't practiced for 12 years, but they've had an active license in another state, they would not be required to take a refresher course. And so there's some concern again, everything changes in nursing so fast that should we say that they need to have practiced X number of hours in the last so many years or so many months or something like that? Is that a change that the board should think about? And so 65-1115 talks about professional nurses, which are your RNs. And then 65-1116 talks about practical nurses. You see, there's a lot of similarities. And then what is on page 15 is just an example from BSRB, which is your Behavioral Science Regulatory Board in Kansas. But you see, if you go down under 2A, big letter A, they have to have registration, certification, or licensure to practice for at least 48 of the last 54 months immediately preceding with at least a minimum professional experience. So that's kind of maybe an example of something, but there was just some questions about, should we have some changes to this? And I don't know if there's anybody else that wants to speak about that that's on here.
Alternative, you could do it like the BSRB, but you could also add as an alternative in case they can't meet that criteria, would be to add refresher courses. Just like, you have for when they haven't maintained their license, you would say, okay, they can't show that they've been working for so many years before they did their application. But then if they can't show that, then they have the alternative way of doing some refresher courses. So that way you perhaps don't block out those nurses altogether if they've only worked 3 of 5 years or something like that.
And this is Carol Moreland again, just to kind of piggyback on that. I forgot to say it, but you kind of have to watch a little bit because some of the refresher courses are only set up if someone does not have a valid nursing license. So there are times when someone wants to take a refresher course just because they want to refresh their skills. I mean, we get a lot of people, a lot of nurses who call and maybe they've been out of practice while they raise their children, and now they want to go back in practice, but they realize that they really need to work on their skills and their knowledge to get it back up to where they would feel comfortable. And they try to get into a refresher course. Well, they've had an active license this whole time. They haven't ever let it lapse. And some of the refresher courses are set up that one of the requirements to get in is you do not have a valid active license. So there may be some refresher courses that will not accept them if they have an
Carol,
active.
though, if for the applicants who are coming in, from another state, they wouldn't be licensed in Kansas. So would that count that they're not licensed in Kansas?
Well, what would you do if perhaps they had a multi-state license, which we recognize? Well, they would need a license then. Forget that.
Yeah,
been in meetings since 8:30 this morning. My thinking is.
I was going to follow you down that path if you wanted me to.
Okay, well, go ahead then. Maybe I was on something and I just.
No, I think you're right. I mean, this is talking about Kansas license, a single state license.
Does anybody have any questions for Carol?
So this is Juliana Reshik, board member. I appreciate what Carol's pointing out, and I do think that there is a concern there. Is this a loophole that we have that someone can come in and get a Kansas license when they have not been practicing? I guess maybe Carol, can you give some more insight about, do you see this frequently or has this come up in topic through processes within the board?
Well, this Carol Moreland, administrator, to be real truthful, I wouldn't hear about it because they endorse in and we have no requirement. And so if they meet our other endorsement, they get a license, and it's kind of, I guess it's up to the employer to say, tell me about your experience. And I would hope at that point, the employer sees this big time period in which they've not practiced. But we have no practice requirement. I don't know that I would hear, truthfully, unless they somehow got kicked to the legal side and started down that path. But just to have an endorsement for somebody who's not practiced in 10 years in another state, but they have an active license in the other state, they meet all of our requirements, I'm not going to hear about it, to be truthful.
I would question too whether or not that differs from, say, a Kansas nurse who hasn't practiced for 10 or 15 years and then comes back and applies to me for a job, and I'm looking at that gap and wondering, but I see that possible same scenario happening with a Kansas nurse that has maintained an active license and therefore can go out tomorrow and practice whether she's competent or not. There's some level of responsibility, I think, on employers to look at that.
I agree with you, Sharon, and I can't, this is Juliana Reshik again, board member. I can't say as an employer that is a big issue or something that we have run into. Sharon, I don't know if you have seen differently, but that's my comment.
Well, and this is Sharon Morris. I also look, even jumping from, nursing has become so specialized. And so if you're really talking about competencies, is a nurse that has been practicing for 15 years in one specialty if she jumps to another specialty, there's got to be a consideration that I'm going to have to bring her up to speed in my specialty, even if she's got ICU experience and CCRN and everything behind her name, that if she's going into school nursing, there's going to be some practice issues that I've got to account for because she's not an experienced in that specialty. So I think across the board, there's a reasonable expectation that people make sure that they are remediating any gaps for staff. And I would just question how much of that can even realistically be on the state board as opposed to somebody that's working with them.
I know most places, I know we have continuing education. We do competencies twice a year. If there's something new, immediately we have a new competency to do, whether it be a checklist that has to go through with the DON or if it's a hour-long video course and testing that you have to do. So I know that with things changing as much as they do, we do a lot of that in our position. So
Well, I appreciate the conversation and the discussion. I'm in favor of making no changes at this point. I'm not sure this is the place where we would address that concern. So
This is Sharon. Do we know of other states doing this? Is this a trend in other states that we're?
This is Carol Moreland. Truthfully, I can't answer that off the top of my head. I don't know how many other states have practice hour requirements and stuff like that. If you want us to, we can certainly check into it. I just don't know off the top of my head. Sorry.
okay, we don't need a motion for this, do we? Since we're just talking about it.
No, no motion.
Okay, I didn't think so. Do we have any more discussion on that topic before we move on? Okay, thank you, Carol. Next is IV therapy unfinished business. And do we know what that is? Oh, Carol, you're on mute.
This is Carol Moreland, again, administrator. I was told after the agenda came out that I was to put back in here the approved IV therapy regulations for the LPN. And so you have those on page 17, 18, 19, 20, and 20, 21, and 22. These actually became effective January 17th. I will just kind of update you. It was discussed in the Education Committee meeting this morning. There was a task force that asked some questions because there was a lot of questions from the educators about how this kind of fits into the PN core curriculum and was it required for everybody and stuff like that. So a task force was put together that answered some of these. And it is the recommendation from the task force is that IV therapy be a part of every PN program in Kansas that offers PN certification or for LPN licensure. And the reason for that is it's felt that it will be too confusing if part of the programs graduate and their graduates get licensed as LPNs and they don't have IV therapy. And then there's others that do. I think it's going to be very confusing for employers and stuff. I think the Education Committee and the task force felt that it was easier if we just said that starting on this date, a certain date, that every graduate of a PN program in Kansas will have had the IV therapy certification. And it would just be easier because the goal is to make the graduates as marketable and able to get a job as possible. And if you start picking some out, some do have it, some don't, then you're going to lead to possibly this program's better than this program because they're better prepared and stuff like that. So I just kind of wanted to update you on that. And then they also recommended that the implementation date be fall of 2021, so that gives PN programs time to get this built into their curriculum, bring a curriculum change to us and stuff like that. And then there was some concern, I guess, out there in some of the PN programs that the cost to be able to do the IV therapy, because they might need more equipment and more stuff like that, was going to be, a problem for them. Actually, we talked to KBOR, and KBOR said if there's any program out there that could not afford this, that they should check with KBOR and see if there's some funding for that. So hopefully that's been taken care of. So I just wanted to kind of update you on that. And those recommendations were approved by the Education Committee this morning, so they will go to the board tomorrow.
Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Moving on new business. The updated IV therapy test questions.
This is Portland again, administrator, and I apologize. I haven't had time to go back in the archives to figure out how actually they did this when they updated the IV therapy test questions before. So I will bring that back in December, if that would be okay with the committee. We just kind of have to go back and look in minutes and all of this, and that takes a little bit of time.
Do we have to do a motion on that to bring it back, or is it okay just to say it's tabled till December? Okay, then that's what we will do. Next, the review of annual report data from IV therapy providers.
Okay, that's Orlando board. You have this on page 23 and 24 in your packet. And the annual report for the IV therapy providers was to be done by July 30th. And you will see that most of them submitted it. There is an update on WSU Tech on page 24. We actually do have their information now because, this was actually put in the packet like the middle of August. And so they did submit it then. And I believe we have it from Stormont also. Let me check on that. And then you will notice that Irwin Army Community Hospital, they did not submit an annual report in 2019 or 2020. Some of the problem that we run into on these is the coordinator changes. When we send out communication to the coordinator, if it's not the same coordinator, that person's not even there. Nobody else really looks at the communication, of course, and it just gets tossed. And so that's part of the problem we run into. And so we're still trying to find someone at Irwin Army Hospital, Pratt Community College, and I think we got it from Stormont, that can run this down and get us the data. But it takes a little bit.
And this is Julie Brown, and I'm with Stormont, and my name is still on there, and I haven't been the coordinator for a couple of years.
Do you know who is now, Julie?
It's Ann Buckland, I believe, is still doing that.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
All right. You don't know about anybody else on here, do you? No.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. So what I will do is we will continue to follow up, and I will have an updated one of these in December. And if we've been totally unsuccessful, then we'll let you know.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Carol? Okay, if not, I need a motion for adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, can I get a second?
Gwen Lloyd, I second.
Okay,
And that was Sharon Morris on the motion.
thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Sharon Morris, aye.
Juliana Reshik, aye.
Gwen Lloyd, I.
Julie Brown, aye.
Okay, any opposed? Same sign? Well, motion is moved. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.